A lot of times when you ask people what is the most important thing to you, usually the top things are my family, my kids, my career, being happy. I would follow up that question with how long do you plan to do those things? And that question usually stumps people. They've never really thought about, well, life is unpredictable. We could all get hit by a meteor tomorrow, whatever. And they don't really seem to put much thought into it because they're so busy. They're so busy with all of these things that are super important to them. But what baffles me the most is that their health is never, on the list. Their health never seems like a priority, and that blows my mind. Because how are you supposed to do all these things when you're sick? How are you supposed to take care of these children you decided to have when you're sick? How do you take care of the children when what you're giving them to eat on a regular basis will eventually make them sick? And when I try to have conversations like this with people, it makes them uncomfortable. It stresses them out. They just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to have these conversations. They don't want to think about these things because it's too much. It's too hard, they say. It's like they don't have time for it. They're just going to do what they were raised to do, and that's go to the store, buy, mac and cheese, and that's dinner, and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and that's lunch, and pour a box of cereal that's laced with chemicals that have proven to cause cancer and call that breakfast, and just, go on living your life with, autism, high blood pressure, diabetes, insulin resistance. Because that's normal, right? It's normal to have diseases, right? And I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't care, because these are things that, as every day I'm working on figuring, my own health out. I'm working on becoming stronger and overcoming the issues that I deal with physically on a regular basis. But, people say, well, it's easy for you because, you don't have kids. It's easy for you because, you don't have to work, 18-hour shifts and whatnot. And most people are just so busy, which I get it. They've made us so busy in life to make it so that it's hard to cook, food from scratch. It's hard to get to the gym. It's hard to, go for a walk. It's because you're just so busy trying to make money to live. They've designed it to make it as difficult as possible to be healthy. They've designed it to make it as difficult as possible to be, mentally and spiritually healthy. They've designed it to put all this garbage out in the universe to make us, I'd rather sit and play video games. I'd rather, sit with my phone and, shop online and all this stuff, because that feels better than, going to the gym where I'm uncomfortable. People point at me, they laugh at me, they make fun of me, like, why am I at the, we make up all these excuses and all these reasons to keep ourselves down and to keep ourselves unhealthy, because that feels more normal. The amount of time, I don't even know how many weeks I took off from the gym. Not to let my body heal per se, but because I was so stressed with getting my house ready to move in and making sure that my energetic puppy got taken care of, got taken out on walks, so he was mentally well, because, call me crazy, but that's important to me, especially a dog I haven't even had for a year. And I was just like, there's no time. I mean, I could have made time, but then there wouldn't have been any time to sleep, and sleep is super important. And then I let my eating habits go bad because I didn't have my food, I didn't have my stuff out to cook my normal meal, just everything. And so I did this for about maybe 4 or 5 weeks, And like I showed in pictures, like you can just see that I got my muscle, seemed to just be gone. I know it's not gone, but a lot smaller. I went and, lifted today, and I was like, holy crap, I used to, do shoulder presses with 40-pound dumbbells, and I was using the 30, little things. So my mind is just thinking how much time it took for me to lose, what I gained. And that's part of life. But getting back on track, for me, is exciting. It's fulfilling. It gives me something to look forward to. And so when I see people that don't even, have a clue what their bodies are capable of, much less what their bodies are capable of making them feel in a positive way, it just kind of blows my mind. That we don't take any accountability for our health, that we don't realize what the amazing things that our bodies are capable of doing, much less how it feeds our brains, how it feeds, but that we're so institutionalized to go to a grocery store and buy highly processed food, call that okay, much less feed it to our children. Because a lot of people usually don't start working on themselves until they're faced with some kind of health crisis, sadly. Not all, but a lot. Usually that's what it takes. And don't even get me started on doctors. Don't even get me started on that we put all of our entire bodies in the hands of a lot of doctors. Not all, but a lot of doctors who are there to prescribe medications. I heard a statistic today when I was listening to a podcast that the rate of, can I say, schmuicide in doctors is incredibly high. And that blew my mind too. So, careful who you trust your body with. But again, no one has time for this. No one, how do I research a doctor that's, not gonna look at my cholesterol and say, hey, let me put you on statins, which are gonna ruin your body, by the way. And instead of saying, hey, cholesterol is good for you if you eat the right foods. Butter is good for you to have. Ghee, tallow is good for you to have. Fatty meats are good for you to have. But instead, they're not saying anything about sugar spikes, insulin spikes. It's just, obviously, I could go on and on. But what I'm saying is, don't give up on yourself. Take time for yourself. I've found some amazing podcasts. If you're curious about what I'm listening to, I would love to share it with you because, like I said, the more we know, the more we, wow, I don't even know what that is. Looks like a tiny worm. The more we educate ourselves, the more we just take time for yourself. Take time for yourself, for your health. And especially if you have kids, careful what you're feeding them. And I know a lot of people say, well, I'm on a budget. I can't afford, steak every night. I understand that. It's tough. So, but it's not impossible.